We turn to junk food, internet, television, pornography, procrastinating, and I'm bored and I'm directionless. That's when I probably need to go activate my masculine. I'm such a nice guy. I treat women well. I listen to them talk about the problem. I pay their rent. They say some lucky woman's going to be so fortunate to have you someday, but they don't want to be my girl. The masculine is the source of love. Nice guys have to learn to make their needs a priority. Learn to set boundaries is another thing that we need to do. If you get out of bed in the morning, and if you can turn every "oh no, I have to" into an "oh boy, I get to," you're going to live a passionate life.
Oh, but it's years since I left. Memories are shrouded in there.
I just want to welcome you to the Healthy Masculine Movement. It's something I started about a year ago, and I am interviewing Robert Glover. And you've been a mentor of mine, and I love that I'm now interviewing you because, a year ago I couldn't have imagined this. But I started this because about a year and a half ago, I took a course with John Weiland, who I know is a friend of yours. And in that course, he does an exercise called My Impossible Goal.
Uh-huh.
And My Impossible Goal, the wording that I came up with is to help heal all masculine insecurities.
Wow, that's you're not taking on anything easy.
No, there's only 3 billion more men I need to work with, and then I'm good. And so I started this channel just as an idea because it kind of pushes my boundaries a little bit to get on camera and chat with people. And I've interviewed some of John Weiland, one of his lead trainers, and a couple other coaches that I've worked with.
Cool.
And so this is my way. I'm now doing coaching online, just beginning that, and I'm coaching. I'm doing men's circles. I'm leading men's circles live in Vancouver. They come to my garage. We sit around a little fireplace, and it's been pretty great. So this is my way.
I love it.
Thank you. It's my way of helping heal masculine insecurities by opening up myself and sharing. And a question I love to ask about, healthy masculine is, have you ever found yourself in a unhealthy masculine, a lower masculine? And just steps you've taken to get out of that, into your higher masculine, into a safer space again.
Well, first of all, to answer that, I think I probably need a little better understanding of what it means to you to say higher and lower masculine. Because I know there's different terminologies. You mentioned John Wineland. He uses the term divine masculine, toxic masculine, which I actually don't like. I love John, and I've told him I don't like those terminologies because I don't like to think of any man per se as being toxic. And I'm not sure in this human form we're necessarily divine. I think we have a divine to us. So there's different terminology. So tell me what you mean by higher and lower, because have I struggled around being a man? Yeah. Have I struggled to balance polarities of my masculine, feminine energies inside? Yeah. But so give me a little bit better idea of what you mean by that, higher and lower masculine.
Yeah, I don't like toxic masculine as well, because to me, it something toxic can't be fixed. And I think all masculine men, anybody can work on themselves so they can be fixed, they can achieve something better. The toxic, I think, or not toxic, the unhealthy masculine, I would say, is when you're not feeling people around you, when you're just closed off and you feel like you can't really accept anything in. You have to deflect everything and just be yourself.
Okay.
And a healthy masculine is somebody who can and something I've learned from you, just be open and be curious, let things come to you, and knowing that I can handle it. Something you've said many times to me, to all the coaches you coach, I can handle it. And so that to me is moving from that sheltered, like, no, I can't handle anything, I need to be by myself, and small, physically small, into just being a little wider and knowing that I can take things on. And how do you feel more into that space? How do you get more into that space?
Yeah. Let me talk about this in two different ways, and really two different paradigms, because there might be value in both of them. First one, let's talk about masculine, feminine polarities. And then let's just talk about the masculine um, role as a man. What does it mean to be masculine? And so the masculine, feminine polarities, I look at that more as an energetic
Mhm.
piece. And that all humans, all men and women, have a masculine side to us, a feminine side, the yin and the yang, the black and white,
Mhm.
interrelated. And I speak of them more energetically because it is energy. They shift. They move. It's not like that's who you are, right? You have both of those at interplay with each other. And as I said, my way of looking at it is that all men and all women have that dynamic of the masculine and feminine. The masculine part of us energetically is the part that does, that penetrates. I heard years ago, I heard David Data in a workshop, kind of just simply say it. He's a brilliant teacher, but I probably simplify it even more than him. The masculine does, the feminine is done too. And even as he even pointed out, just even sexually, masculine's typically penetrating physically, woman's being penetrated.
Mm.
Now, I'm careful not to, when I'm talking about polarity, not speak man, woman, like men are the masculine, women are the feminine, because we all have both. I have a pretty strong feminine side to me. I suspect you do too.
I do.
I like connection. I like comfort. I like sensuality, all feminine type traits, the being done to, the being receptive part. But I like to do stuff. I like to get things done. I love my work. I love penetrating the world. And so, but I usually do that in a very connected way, which is feminine. The feminine wants that connection, that flow of love. And you probably know a lot of women that are pretty masculine.
Oh yeah.
My mother is pretty masculine. My wife's pretty masculine. My wife could kick my ass, physically and otherwise. Very strong, right? And my wife's a good doer. My mother was a good, to this day. My mother at 88, having had a stroke, she still can get a lot of stuff done, and she's still very independent. So there's women in my life that are very masculine. You've met Nala, my feminine
Yeah.
pit bull.
Yeah.
She can be. She's pretty tough. She's pretty masculine. I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of her being unhappy. So we don't have to look far to see kind of feminine energetic traits in men and masculine energetic traits in women. Most of us, I think, have a default that we kind of lean towards. And I think most men default to the masculine and most women default to the feminine. But culturally, we live in times where I think men and women have been indoctrinated that their natural default position is not best. I grew up, I'm 68. I grew up hearing my mother say, "Don't be like your father." I grew up listening to women complain about men that only wanted one thing. I grew up during the angry feminism of the 60s and 70s that every man's a rapist, an erection's a sign of aggression. Everything associated with masculine traits, was bad. I grew up during, I was a little bit young, Summer of Love. I was too young for it, but let your freak flag fly.
Yeah.
Embrace your feminine side. I was wearing tie dye and flowered shirts and pink and growing my hair out when I was a teenager, right? So I grew up during that, all that emphasis, and energetically, I do lean towards the feminine. I don't like conflict. I love cooperative effort, and I love to be loved, feminine. Okay.
Mhm.
And again, like I said, a lot of women have been told, oh, don't don't be, they're not told don't be feminine because it's actually feminist, which I think is funny that, that I grad school, the feminist teachers I had said, there is no such thing as gender. Masculine and feminine are just constructs imposed on boys and girls by society. There's absolutely no scientific evidence of that. There's scientific evidence to the contrary, that there are distinctive physical gender traits, men and women. But that's the second paradigm we're going to talk about in just a minute.
Sure.
So, but the girls grow. You got to succeed. You have to have a career. Being a mother is debasing. Don't be dependent on a man. Get ahead. All masculine. So a lot of women have said, don't. Your feminine side is wrong. It's bad. Now we're luckily a lot is shifting now. Where hey, we can. We guys we can be powerful, and we can we don't have to be toxic or destructive. Women are learning, I can be receptive. I can flow. I can, celebrate my beauty. And I don't have, that doesn't mean I have to be dependent on a man, right?
Mm.
So I think we're coming to some healthier spaces there. But in this paradigm, if we can be conscious of when our masculine is most needed, when our feminine is most needed, I think it lets us operate better in the world and operate, especially in relationship, operate. Because I think the healthiest relationships, I've been working with relationships for 40 years, I guess, are when I think both people can kind of count on a default energetic pole, but can be reciprocal and can trade back and forth. Where one can be the top and one the bottom, and then they switch it.
Step in between.
One's the pitcher, one's the catcher. One can step up and take over. One can be receptive and be taken care of. So from that place, talking about how do we live in a healthy way around our masculine, for me that means knowing what situations most need my masculine self and which situations most need my feminine self. And I think the healthiest people can actually be in both states at the same time. Well, I think when I'm the most creative and the most connected, I think I have a really good blend of both my masculine and feminine. They're not either or. Mm-hmm. So that's where I find flow. That's where I find depth of connection. That's where I find just my deepest creative places. So one of the things, I primarily work with men, but I just work with men. I've been worked with women for quite some time. And so one of the things I teach men is to pay attention. What are they most needing at any given time? Now, I say that the masculine is activated by challenge and is internally validated through masterful action. The feminine is activated by connection and is externally validated by love and desire and attention. Okay. And if we all have both the masculine and feminine side, often it's easy for us to get out of balance and neglect parts of ourselves. So for example, nowadays, if we're going all the time, doing, that the feminine part of ourselves is going to get neglected. And you've heard me use the term, and then where I think that's where a lot of men turn to what I call the junk food feminine. Instead of being nurtured and filling our bucket, the part of us that needs to be filled and nurtured externally, the feminine part, we turn to junk food, internet, television, pornography, just pot, alcohol, just anything that gets us out of this doing mode. And it feels like it's filling us, but it's not. It's not. Now, I, of course, would recommend, depth of connection, spending time in nature and taking in through your senses. And I just love that central aspect of being nurtured. Now, there's sometimes where we're like, if I'm using my masculine a lot, I might need to pay more attention to nurture my feminine. I might need to put on some music, relax, read a book, connect with people, go sit outside, go be with nature, take my dog for a walk, scratch her behind the ears, nurture my feminine. And there might be times where I'm kind of procrastinating and I'm bored and I'm directionless. That's when I probably need to go activate my masculine. I probably need to get into the gym. I need to go do something that challenges me. I need to go do something I'm putting off, because that will activate my masculine side and give me that internal validation that comes through masterful action. So learning to know at any given time, where am I out of balance? Do I need some feminine? Do I need connection, taking in and absorbing and being nurtured? Or do I need to get up and get out of the house or whatever, go challenge myself, go do something frightening, difficult, out of my comfort zone that will fulfill me that way? So I think if we're being conscious of those two pieces, I don't think we have to worry about are we higher, lower masculine. I think we're balancing those two and integrating those two into being a complete human being, whether it's a man or a woman we're talking to. So there's one paradigm of masculine, feminine polarity.
Okay.
Right? Maybe the other paradigm is, all right, you were born, a boy. Gender-wise, you identified as a boy. So you see your role in life as a masculine role as opposed to a feminine role. You see yourself, connecting with men, having a job, falling in love with women. Again, so many things can get mixed in. We can bring in sexual orientation, into the whole mix. It can be fluid as well. So in terms of kind of your masculine role as a male identified person, I think it still has a lot to do with that doing in life, and I believe it is men tend to get the greatest fulfillment connecting with men and doing challenging things and making a difference in the world and being held accountable and just being masterful. And I think that's what I call that great cake of a life that makes a man happy. And then having feminine things, a woman, a relationship, other feminine, is the icing on top. It's not the cake. But a lot of men I work with kind of get that all reversed. I got to get a woman. I got to please a woman. I got to make a woman happy. I got to get, I'm not complete without a woman, but there's nothing over here that completes them as a man. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and then I think then men get really out of whack with that and fall into like a lot of pornography use, just not living with any kind of purpose or passion. A lot of men come to me. I had a question on just a call last night that I was on. Somebody asking about purpose and passion. I said, I can't quit my job, so how can I pursue my purpose? And I said, well, I think that's a mistaken belief that somehow your purpose is separate. This other entity out here in your job has nothing to do with it. Yeah. I said, some people's purpose might make a living at it. I do. I love what I do. I think it's why I'm here. It's my purpose. And I make a living at it. But like I told this person on the call, you can have a great job unless you do other things purposefully and passionately. Maybe it's tagging, maybe it's skateboarding, maybe it's rock climbing, maybe it's taking photos, maybe it's, serving in a soup kitchen somewhere. You can still do things passionately. It doesn't have to be, what consumes the most of your time. Because, you have a few different jobs. I know you've worked as a music producer. You're learning how to be a carpenter. You're learning how to be a coach. Does any one of those have to be your singular passion? No. Do them all with passion. I bet you were a good sound mixer and probably still a great sound mixer. You're probably learning to, I don't know, do you use a hammer?
We still use hammers.
We still use hammers. Not everything's pneumatic, staple guns. But you do that with passion, right? Yeah. I've seen carpenters have fights with those guns shooting staples at each other. You don't do that, do you?
We don't.
Don't do that.
We don't do that.
And coaching with passion, leading practices with passion, creating your podcast with passion, going to the gym with passion, shaving with passion. I'm just a big fan that if you get out of bed in the morning, and if you can turn every "oh no, I have to" into an "oh boy, I get to," you're going to live a passionate life, and it's going to get reflected in everything that you do. And I think you're going to make a bigger difference than if you just waited and found that one, oh, okay, here's my passion. Here it is. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But if you wait till you find that one passionate thing, how will you even know how to do that passionately if you haven't been doing everything else passionately?
It's almost like practicing how to have passion by doing other things full of passion.
Exactly. So get up and get out of bed with passion. You know what? I make coffee with passion when I get up first thing in the morning. Then I go meditate with passion. And I write in my journal with passion. And then I respond to messages with passion. And I take the dog for a walk with passion. And so, everything that I do, you and I probably both have already had a pretty long day. I was on Zoom till late last night, up this morning on Zoom. I've been on Zoom with calls all day long. You're my last Zoom call of the day. You and I were chatting about that for a minute, but it's kind of like, oh boy, I get to go be on Kevin's podcast with him. And it's like, I put on my best Integration Nation shirt to come be. I'm gonna bring my A game. I'm gonna do it with passion, even if it's my last call of the day. Last call of the week, I'm tired. I've been on. I'm still going to show up and do it with passion because I wouldn't want to do it any other way. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to live my life any other way.
Yeah. I definitely had some nervousness and was thinking, maybe I don't want to do this call just before. And something that I come to bring to myself is I'm never going to interview you for the first time ever after this time. This is the only time in my life.
We're popping your cherry. Yeah, you weren't expecting that.
The Dr. Robert Glover cherry.
Pop the cherry. You know what?
Yeah.
I just got off a call just before I got on this with a new client of mine, and it is our first coaching session together. And he also just joined Integration Nation, which you're one of my coaches on Integration Nation. And he said, like you said, Robert, he said, I had nervousness about this call today. He said, I decided to go to the mountain. I hired the guy that wrote the book. I wanted to get, and he said, but I was nervous about that. He said, until the end of the Integration Nation call last night, and when, you guys danced, and he said, I saw you dancing, doctor. And he said, it took some of the luster off. You dance is worse than I do. And I go, I love hearing that. I love that the luster has fallen off, the image that you had of me.
The guru status. Yeah.
The guru status going, oh man, but he really has no rhythm. He can't move. But I love dancing, so we dance. So yeah, we're just guys. We're just guys. And we're just doing what we can to make a difference in the world. And we're teaming up to do it together.
Yeah.
And it just works better that way.
Yeah. And you mentioned the book No More Mr. Nice Guy. I've wanted to share with you how I found the book, because I think I look back at it and I was given a sign. It's 4 years ago at this time, right after Christmas, I had eaten, a whole lot of junk food. I told myself 4 years ago, I think it was just before COVID, and I decided I would eat anything for 3 weeks. I'm just going to be gluttonous and eat and eat and eat. And then I felt like shit. The new year came and I was like, yeah, well, how did that happen? And I decided to do a juice cleanse for a week. My friend had a juicer. I was doing it all myself, bought all these veggies, did juice cleanses for a week. And then I was doing colon cleanses. I did 3 colon cleanses in that week. They stick something up your butt. They suck out all this stuff. And I thought I was going to feel so light and clean and free. And at the end of it, I just had, I don't know, just bitterness and thinking this should have worked better. And then a voice came to me, something came to me and said, if you want to get real, if you want to really cleanse, go internal, like get the mind clean. And then maybe 2 weeks before, a friend had mentioned your book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. So that was the first thing that popped into my mind. I put it on, I had the audio, I put it on for about 40 minutes while I was cleaning my apartment. I stopped it and I just went and read the book. I bought the book. He says, he's talking to me. And I know, working with you on Integration Nation, so many men say that. They said the book spoke directly to me.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
How does that happen? Like, how does it speak to so many men? And like directly.
Magic.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to so many men. And same thing, like I said, just got off a call with a new client, and he's telling me the story of how he found my book.
Yeah.
And, I love those stories of how people found my book and why it resonated.
Because somebody stuck something up my butt. And then I think.
Yeah, that. One guy told me one time he was in a bookstore and the book actually fell off a shelf and hit him on the head.
Wow.
Magic. I don't know. I think the reason people resonate is that I'm a recovering nice guy. I tell people that, No More Mr. Nice Guy, it's really my story. It's autobiographical. I just use other people's names and stories to tell my story as a recovering nice guy. And, I think, I don't know if it was fate or purpose or luck that, I came along at a time and started exploring me. I was a therapist, got in therapy, started discovering my nice guy story, listening to other guys coming to therapy, telling me this. I think I'm not the only one. And I don't think I had any clue. This was 30 years ago. I didn't have any clue how widespread, what I call nice guy syndrome was. I just started noticing everybody that came to me for therapy was basically saying, I'm a nice guy. I treat my wife well. I treat her better than her ex. When is it going to be enough? It's never my turn. She's never happy. And then the single guys were saying, I'm such a nice guy. I treat women well. I listen to them talk about the problem. I pay their rent. They say some lucky woman's going to be so fortunate to have you someday, but they don't want to be my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going, I'm not the only one that thinks this way. Right. So I started some normal Mr. Nice Guy groups, started writing stuff I was finding out about me. Guys and their wives and girlfriends started saying, Robert, you should write a book. This could be a bestseller. You should go on Oprah. So I just kept writing. But I think why so many men relate is, number one, there's a lot of nice guys.
A lot.
A lot of men out there. I was on a podcast last week, and the interviewer said, Robert, nice guy syndrome is sticky. It's not like just going away. It's expanding. I said, yeah. Nowadays, when I first started working with nice guys 30 years ago, guys my age in their 30s or 40s, talk about their dads being absent, divorced, angry, addicted. Now the men I work with, the younger men, go, my dad was a nice guy. He didn't teach me anything about how to be masculine other than don't piss off your mother, because that was his goal in life, not piss off my mom. So that's all I learned from my nice guy father. So I think the reason men can relate to it, because I wrote it from my own personal experience of exploring me as a nice guy, trying to please, trying to avoid conflict, using covert contracts, repressing my sexuality, being dishonest, having no boundaries, everything I went and explored with me. And at the same time, getting to work with hundreds of men through my therapy practice. At one time, I was leading 5 men's, no more Mr. Nice Guy, men's groups a week while I was, still, actually, I probably came after Nice Guy was published, but I was leading a lot of groups, and I just was immersed in Nice Guy syndrome, and I just wrote about it, and what I wrote seems to resonate well with nice guys. And so yeah, I hear that all the time. How'd you know me so well? Have you been spying on me? I'm going to sue you for invasion of privacy. Where are the cameras? I've heard every way there is of saying that. But yeah, I wrote my experience and just the experience I'd heard other nice guys share, and it does resonate because there's a lot of nice guys out there.
There's a lot. Yeah. And I share it with friends and with women. I tell them that I'm working with you and that I've read the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. And, a lot of first impressions is like, well, why do you not want to be a nice guy? What is the opposite? What are you going to become? Yeah. And I try to explain it. It's like an integrated man. This is what I'd love to hear from you as well. But my thought is, if you're a nice guy in the sense that you are always doing things for other people and you're not doing for yourself, as you mentioned, the covert contracts, there's things underlying that you might not even know that you're looking for, that you have in your questions, or why you're doing things for people.
Yeah. It was, even though I used to, up until my early 30s, I would have said, I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. And I couldn't figure out why everybody else didn't have the same paradigm. How come other people aren't thinking ahead or thinking for other people? And for example, I know this sounds silly, but I was thinking about this on just the other day. I don't like to get on the phone with somebody and I can hardly understand what they say because they mumble or they speak too fast, or you're trying to write down a phone number or an address or their name, and they just say it so fast or so non-distinctly. They go, what? Or especially somebody that has a name that's not a common name, but they say it so rapidly, like you should, I get that, quite a bit here in Mexico, where people will say a name. I go, what? And I'll have to have them write it out because I can't even understand what they're saying, right? So I was thinking about this the other day. I've always, if I'm on the phone, and I'm talking to somebody where I have to give a credit card number or a phone number or say my name, I've always, said it really clearly and distinctly, because I don't like being on the phone or talking and people say their name or give me a number and they don't. I have to keep saying, what? Huh? What? Huh? So I was like, how come everybody doesn't learn to do those kind of things better, right? And I thought, but I was doing that partly because maybe that's just who I am, but partly because I got value out of it. And I thought, well, I guess maybe just a lot of people don't pay attention. Well, they should. They should pay attention, right? That would, I do. That makes me a good person. But I don't think I related to the fact that I had what I call a covert contract, that I got value by doing that. Other people should, respect me and be appreciative and even do it like me because it's the best way to do it. Those are the covert contracts. If I do this, then this is going to happen. And so I thought I was special. I value from doing that. So I forgot the original question we started on this piece about, but bring me back to it. I got off on the tangent.
Kind of what is the opposite of a nice guy? Where are we trying to get to?
That piece. So this isn't about, well, how do I go from being a decent human being to being an asshole? And I know when I named the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, my agent at first said, maybe we should, come up with a different title. I said, non-negotiable. It's funny. I went to visit him about 6 years ago when I re-recorded the audio version, and he gave me a $75,000 check in advance. He goes, "That was a flash of brilliance to name it No More Mr. Nice Guy." And I didn't tell him. You tried to talk me out of it, actually.
Totally.
So, yeah, why would we write a book about teaching men how to be not nice? There's enough guys out there already that aren't nice, but that's not what it's about. Here's how I break it down. I think, what we tend to think of is maybe the two poles of masculine behavior. Over here is a nice guy, the passively pleasing, seeking external validation kind of guy.
Okay.
And over here is the asshole jerk, doesn't give a fuck, is aggressive, is dominating. And, guys will say, Robert, I know that this doesn't work. Me being a nice guy doesn't work, but I don't want to go be the asshole either. And they go, can you teach me, something in between? I don't know. I said, because here's what I believe. My theory is both the nice guy, the wussy doormat, the passively pleasing guy, the sensitive new age man, the snag, and the asshole, the jerk, the dominating bully, are both operating in a fight, flight, freeze state. They both are in heightened states of anxiety. The nice guys managing their anxiety, managing people and situations around them through freezing and fleeing and fawning.
Okay.
That's what kind of, can I make this better? Can I make it better? The assholes managing their anxiety, their heightened anxiety states, the people and situations around them by dominating, fighting, bullying. So in a sense, they're both just trying to manage their inner states of anxiety by trying to manage people and situations, this one through dominance, this one through subtle manipulation and covert contracts. Okay. So going more this direction doesn't solve a problem. Going more this direction doesn't solve a problem. And I tell guys, I don't know where the tipping point is between two toxic extremes. If this isn't healthy and this isn't healthy because they're both trying to manage anxiety in unhealthy ways, somewhere in between them isn't going to be healthy. So what I teach is that we have to actually go from this first level to a second level, and the level above it is where we now part of the integration part, where we learn to accept every part of ourselves. We learn to start self-soothing rather than managing our anxiety. We learn to differentiate, ask ourselves what we want, what's important. We learn to set boundaries, learn to be able to say, yes, no, I'm not going to. We start making our needs a priority. We start being honest and transparent. Those are qualities that occur up here, because down here is just how do I not get in trouble? How do I not be alone? How do I not, it's just managing anxiety. This is still just managing anxiety.
Okay.
So No More Mr. Nice Guy isn't about how do you become more of the asshole jerk so that you can attract women or whatever guys might think. But it's really about how do you live in a more conscious state of being. Be more you, basically. Embrace all the aspects of you. Your intelligence, your wit, your dark side, your humor, your sexuality, your aggression, your fear. Embrace them all, integrate them all, and learn to soothe. Ask yourself, what do you want? Have the boundaries you need. Make your needs a priority. And it's there's a number of pieces that basically get us back to where we were before we just, entered into a state of anxiety and had to find at a young age ways to try to manage our anxiety state.
Yeah, and I like to share with other men that I meet of how I became this. I feel like I have become more integrated, more the man who I wanted to be, who I want to be, who I'm becoming. And I usually tell them something in your book is get with other men.
Yeah.
And that's a big step. And do you have any other first steps that men can take? I think that was one of the best things that I did. And it was yourself, like reading your book, and then with John Wineland as well, both were saying, get with other men.
Yeah. When people ask me, well, okay, break it down. What do guys need to do to start, breaking free from nice guy syndrome? And I say, well, here's what I did. And kind of what I did still seems like, I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't know I was breaking free from nice guy syndrome, and kind of recovering my true self again and integrating all aspects of myself. But I did. I got around other people and started doing my work. I got into a 12-step group. My wife at that time kept saying, "You're a sex addict." So I said, "You need to go to a sex addict group." So I did. Quickly found out I wasn't having enough sex to be a sex addict.
Okay.
But because I wanted to have sex with her and she didn't, she thought that meant I was a sex addict. But for the first time in my life, I started opening up and revealing me. And I loved it. I grew up fundamental Christian, critical, angry father, trying to please my mother, turned angry feminism. Oh, I've got to be good. I just started revealing me, thoughts, feelings, impulses, actions. It felt good. I got with a therapist and started, revealing me. Got into a men's group. So a couple of powerful things had happened. I talk about toxic shame in No More Mr. Nice Guy. Toxic shame is an internalized and inaccurately internalized belief. I'm not okay. I'm not lovable. I'm bad. And that's at the core. That and anxiety seem to be at the core of everything nice guys do. So to shed this inaccurate belief that I'm not good enough, we got to get around people, safe people, coach, therapist, good friend, and start revealing ourselves and getting more accurate messages. You're not bad. That's normal. Well, that wasn't terrible. Well, you made a mistake. What do you learn from it, right? No shame. You're not bad. You made a mistake. You can do better. Good men doing better. We can do better without having, in fact, we do better without shame. So we need safe people. So one of the first things is get around safe people. Find a men's group, get a coach, 12-step group, therapist, men's program, and start revealing you and getting more accurate feedback that you're okay. You're not bad. You don't have to hide anything about yourself. So there's that part of releasing toxic shame with safe people. I also then started working on being honest, telling the truth, being transparent, not holding stuff back that I thought might upset somebody or rock the boat or get me in trouble. I just started telling the truth. And I always thought I was a pretty honest guy. Really came to realize, I mean, if I thought anybody's going to be upset at me, I didn't tell them the truth. I might just left stuff out or misdirected their attention. So telling the truth. You mentioned being with guys. One thing about nice guys, not all, but a great majority of them will say, I'm more comfortable with women. I like talking with women and blah, blah, blah. Guys, oh, they're aggressive and they just sit around and watch sports and drink beer and objectify women and talk about cars. Well, I said, what's wrong with that? But that's not all men do. There's a lot of men out there that really do want to go deep and really want to be conscious and open-hearted and be aware. And if we don't connect with men, we're not going to be connected with our own masculine self. If we're rejecting everything we label as masculine, we push it away, we got to push it away in ourselves. So I'm a big fan of connecting with men. Something else you've heard me say, going back to that masculine, feminine polarity, this kind of really shakes people's thinking up when I first say it. But then once they think about it, they usually go, yeah, how come I never thought of that way? But if we think about feminine as being receptive, that energy of the feminine, and the feminine being the seeker of love. If the feminine is the seeker of love and the receptor of love, we often think of women, per se, the physical manifestation maybe of feminine, women as being loved. I got to have a woman to be loved. But if you think about it, women tend to go seeking love, right? So the feminine is the seeker of love. Well, that must mean the masculine is the source of love. Masculine does. Masculine is intention. Masculine is action. And love, your people listening to this, go Google what Scott Peck's definition of love is. Scott Peck in the book, The Road Less Traveled. And it'll say something along the lines that basically love is intention to take action in one's own or another's spiritual development or one's own or another's best interest.
Okay.
So love is intention and action. Those are masculine traits. So I'll ask guys, have you felt in your lifetime, maybe you spent a lot of time getting around women, having girlfriends, being married, whatever, being with mothers, daughters. I said, do you feel consistently loved around women? The guys go, no. I keep thinking that's where I have to get love. I'm a guy, I'm heterosexual. I got to go get a woman to love me. I go, yeah, how's that worked? Well, actually, no, I haven't ever really felt consistently loved. They might love me one day, next day they don't. They might love me this minute, next minute they don't. And I said, I don't ever get that with guys. I never get a guy friend that goes, I love you today, but tomorrow I'm not talking to you because I'm mad at you, whatever. The masculine is the source of love. So if I tell guys, if you want to feel loved, go connect with men.
Mm-hmm.
Like even telling you, like dancing at the end of Integration Nation call. When the guy says, Robert, you lost some of your luster when I saw you dance. I felt loved by that, actually, right? A woman would say, just move to the beat. You don't have any rhythm. No. The guy said, hey, you lost some luster because you dance worse than me. I took that as a loving compliment that, we had a real connection between us, right? So connect with men. To challenge us, to support us, to hold us, to help us embrace our own masculine self. Learn to set boundaries is another thing that we need to do. I was in my 30s in my second marriage and I already had a PhD in marriage and family therapy. And I'd never heard of boundaries. I went to a therapist, and first session, she put a string on the ground and walked me through boundaries. I came to really realize most adults don't have boundaries because we don't get taught them as children. What we get taught as children is the big people can do whatever they want to the little people because they're big, right? We didn't get taught you can say no, stop, don't do that, or let's take a break, or I've had enough. We don't learn that. So nice guys have to learn about boundaries. Nice guys have to learn to make their needs a priority. We're so often taking care of everybody else, repressing our own needs. Nice guys are terrible receivers. One of our covert contracts is, I'll read your mind and give you what you want so that you'll love me and read my mind and give me what I want. But nobody else knows that contract exists or how to read our mind. And if they do try to give to us, most of the times we don't let them. We're not very good receivers. It makes us feel guilty or we're doing something wrong if people do something for us. So that was a big piece. I had to learn to start giving to me. I had to start letting people give to me as well. And I had to surround myself with people who wanted to give to me. So those were all things I had to learn how to do. So there's kind of a basket full of stuff. Don't do this alone. Go get safe people.
Yep.
Release toxic shame. Get around and connect with men, good men who are wanting to be more conscious. I think I've already said, be honest, set boundaries, make your needs a priority. We talked earlier, learn to self-soothe your anxiety rather than trying to manage it by managing people and situations. So all of these kind of fit into a pretty nice basket. Oh, I should write a book about that sometime.
Well, it brings me to, I think, Dating Essentials for Men, another book that you wrote. I think it's from there that you talk about practicing non-attachment. And it might be in both books.
Yeah, I stole that from the Buddha.
Oh yeah,
and probably that probably. Oh yeah, the Buddha said attachment is the cause of all suffering, and
I've heard that. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. And I also say attachment is the cause of all anxiety, and so by the time I wrote the Dating Essentials for Men book, I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy while married to my second wife, and the book actually came out right after we'd split.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of years later, I kind of started getting more conscious about how to date. I was in my late 40s and 50s and started having success dating. And my client said, Robert, teach us. What are you doing? And I'm not a dating coach. I'm not a dating guru. They go, yeah, but you're having success. Teach us. So I started teaching guys what I was doing. And so probably that part about non-attachment to outcome, especially in taking bold action, is why that came around by the time I wrote the dating book. So this came, a few years after No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Okay. Something else that I've learned from you, about feeling anxiety. I don't think it's in one of your books. It's just from, being with you on Integration Nation, is just that whole grounding and feeling present. Grounding,
Yeah.
is it grounding, breathe, open, and be curious? And to me, that
Yeah.
has made me feel more calm. And that makes me feel like, oh, I'm more in my masculine, just being open. And I think you were saying that just came to you because you were feeling some anxiety and you decided to try this.
Really where that came from, that's a combination, kind of the part about the grounding, probably that more came out of the influence of David Data and then John Wineland as a coach that I
Okay.
worked with for a number of years. We're doing a lot of just physical practice to get solid in the lower part of your body. And then combining that with, I'd been teaching about self-soothing, especially through breath, just calming the breath, just diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, just slowing things down, getting our oxygen, CO2 balance healthier, getting out of our heads and into our body. So the grounding in breath, that combination. And then doing I've been a guest speaker a couple times down at Rhythmia in Costa Rica. It's an ayahuasca retreat center, and they kind of have a mantra about basically open, relax, and go towards what scares you. So I kind of brought that into
Okay.
the mix as well. So ground, breathe, open, and sometimes I say get curious. Sometimes I say go towards what scares you. Use that as your North Star. And,
Mhm.
my mantras can change, depending on how I need them. But yeah, they usually involve getting solid. I saw an athlete make a quote the other day, and so I Googled it. And there's actually a song by that name, and somebody's written a book. But I think it's a phrase about being mindful and here in the moment. And the athlete says, "I try to be where my feet are." And I've been playing with that for a while. And on a call last night, I had all right, everybody, put your feet on the ground and be where your feet are. That means just be
Mhm.
in the moment. Be right here. If your feet are right here, you be right here. Not in the future, in the past, distracted over here.
Mhm.
Be in your body, be in this moment. And so those little mantras just really help me, especially if I'm feeling some anxiety or in not knowing what's behind this around the corner, how do I do something, if somebody's upset, I don't know why, whatever it is, if I can just get grounded, get solid, kind of calm myself with breath, open to whatever's happening rather than close. I'm reading a book right now, The Untethered Soul by Michael
Oh
Singer.
yeah.
and that book is about opening. There's a line in there. He said, "The best way to open is not to close." I thought that's so fucking profound.
Easy, but yeah.
Yeah. And then I did an interview earlier this week with a young man who's actually going to come do a workshop with me. And he just sent me a message yesterday, and he said, "I just got done reading David Data's Blue Truth," and he says he sure does talk about opening a lot in there. And I've always joked, yeah, yeah, open, open. So yeah, so that book's all about opening, and so yeah, ground, breathe, just open. Instead of
Yeah.
saying, "Why is this happening?" Say, "Okay, this is happening. This is. How can I get curious about it? How can I go in the direction of what I'm wanting to close around? That
Mhm.
what's scaring me?" But to do that, to get curious, to open, to go in the direction of what's scary, I think you got to get solid first. And your feet don't have to be on the ground. I've done this laying on a bed before. Of just kind of just go to ground, just energetically.
Mhm.
Just feel okay. I'm grounding myself, slowing my breathing, getting into my body, getting in the moment, getting here, and then get curious, open to what's happening. What is this about? What story is this telling me about me? What story is this telling me about the other person? What do I just need to be noticing about this rather than what do I need to change about it or fix or make it go away?
Yeah.
And life gets a lot easier if we're not trying to manage it and trying to shape it and squeeze it into the thing that we think it is supposed to be. And
Yeah.
another book that I love, because I love the title as much as anything, a book by Byron Katie called Loving What Is. Think about it. How do you just learn to love what is instead of thinking it shouldn't be this way? Well, but it is. You know, and really it's just how do I accept and surrender rather than resist? So a lot goes into those little mantras
Yeah, but
that
it sounds like it comes back to non-attachment. You just accept what is, and something else I've heard you say many times is just I can handle it.
yeah.
That everything in your life you've already passed through it, and you can handle it. And so I've been saying that, and it's something I tell people to do. But I just have a couple more questions. Is there something that you find you have to say I can handle it to these days? Is there something you're still working on, still struggling with?
Yeah, my wife getting mad at me.
You can handle it. You can
I can
handle it.
handle it. Yeah. She always gets over being mad at me. It
Okay.
is funny that, I've been working on my own nice guy issues for 30 years. And I've faced a lot of fears. I've been interviewed by Bill O'Reilly, one of the first earliest interviews I ever did on television.
Yeah.
Been interviewed by Dick Clark, Geraldo. Um, I've traveled. I've spoken in front of large audiences. Um, yeah, I've done all kinds of scary things. And it's probably my wife getting this certain look on her face, this certain frown, that certain kind of rigidness of body that's like, oh fuck, I'm in trouble. I'm gonna die. And it amuses me because I, you know, I'm not gonna die. My wife's not gonna kill me. My wife's not gonna leave me. She has my initials tattooed, on her front hips. She loves me, right? But she has her own stuff. She gets triggered, and I got my stuff. I get triggered. And it's interesting to watch for me that why this short little brown Mexican woman that I didn't even know 10 years ago can trigger such strong anxiety in me,
Yeah.
right? She's not going to quit loving me. She's not going to quit having sex with me. She said, I'll never say no to sex. And even if I'm mad at you, she says, I'm never mad at your cock. So, I'll never say no to sex. She's not going to leave me. But so that's in my nervous system. That's really old. That's something probably going back to infancy of my mother, my grandmother, a nurse in the hospital when I was having surgery at 5 days old. I don't know.
Okay.
Some look of that seems like disgust because children really internalize faces and eyes and expressions when they're young. Something that I'm bad, I'm in trouble, I'm going to die. There's no words to it. It's just, oh fuck, I got to fix it. So it's funny. Yeah, most of my mantras still go to how do I soothe my anxiety when I see that look on my wife's face, or she seems withdrawn, or she's quiet, or she's snapping at the kids, and I'm going, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Mm.
And just that's when I get to soothe myself. I get to ground and breathe, get
Yeah.
curious,
Bring in all those practices that you have.
all of it comes in because I know it's not about her. It's old, and she's just giving me a chance to get in touch with this really old stuff and get unattached to it, to let it move through me. Now, will I be doing that till the day I die? Odds are I will. I think that stuff that's deep in our nervous system is pretty solidly, cemented down there in our neural pathways.
Yeah.
But we can learn to be the observer of it, not the reactor to it. It's kind of like that Viktor Frankl gap, that if we learn to observe, we can pause in that moment. And in that moment of pause and how we respond, that's where he says where our freedom and our power lies.
Okay.
So learning to soothe ourselves, I can handle it, creates that pause. I've been using the term mind the gap, kind of like if you go to the UK and write.
Oh, yeah.
Tube. Mind the gap. Let's just be basically saying be careful of that gap between the place where you step off of and into the subway car. And so you mind the gap. What's that gap between the stimulus, my wife getting that frown on her face, and my response?
Okay.
If I can kind of in that gap soothe myself, get curious, know I can handle it, know I'm not going to die, she's not going to leave me. My response is very different than what it would have been if I wasn't minding the gap and just reacting.
Reacting instead of responding. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. I have a question. This is a new year, 2024. I've chosen the word expansion to express what I want in 2024, because I couldn't believe a year ago that I'd be doing this, all the work I'm doing. So I could see this year being even more expansive. Do you have a word? I know you're not into New Year's resolutions, but do you have a word that
I'm not,
describes?
but I've already yeah, I'm in a men's group of my own that have guys I've been connected with for about 6 years, and this discussion came up last week. You know, the two words that really are up for me right now are faith and fate. And
Different.
I'm not religious. I was. I had 2 degrees in religion. I was a minister for 8 years, but I haven't been religious for a long time. Um, but you know, I'm involved in something that is bigger than me. You know, creating Integration Nation isn't just, oh, here's a good idea for starting a business. It
Mm.
really is about my legacy, what I've learned, what I've taught, what I'm going to continue to learn and teach, my belief that men need a place to connect and be mentored and be initiated. And I don't know how to build a business this big. I don't know the right way to do everything. I don't know how I'm going to figure things out. I don't know how I'm going to pay for certain things. I don't know how I'm going to market this. I don't know how I'm going to, there's a lot of things I don't know. I don't know, what it's going to look like a year from now, 5 years from now. But what I do know is that things keep falling into place. People keep coming into my life. I'll get an email. I'll get a note. Somebody will mention a book, this, that. Pieces keep falling together, and things keep working, and in ways that I couldn't have planned or thought out. And so, for a couple of years now, I've been playing with the idea of fate. If you'd asked me a couple of years ago, did I believe in fate? I would have said, probably not. I don't
Mm.
think so. Uh, I'm kind of leaning in that direction now. That maybe everything in my life that's happened up to this point has been part of a process, a plan to bring me where I am right now, talking to you,
Mm.
and that has a further expansion and extension that's not done yet. There's still more time, some more work to do, and it's actually easier to do this work believing it's my fate. It's
Okay.
exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, which requires some faith, right? It's a leap, but that's what faith is. It's a leap. Faith is not based on what you intellectually know and can measure and calculate and predict. That's not faith. That's just measurement. That's scientific study. I have to have a faith that how I've invested my time day and night, 7 days a week for the last 2 years, and I've committed to this for the next 20 years. My if that's where my faith takes me, I have to have faith that what I've invested my money in. I have to have faith that what I'm teaching has value. I have to have faith that men want this and need it and are going to
Mm.
come to it. There's a lot of faith, right? There's like, I could be retired. I'm 68, I can retire and live off the royalties. I didn't need to do this, but it seems that it is my fate that everything lined up the pieces that said, Robert, it's a no-brainer. Go that direction. And so that's a long answer to your question. So faith and fate
Are
are
the
the
words.
two things because I don't want to believe in fate. And I'm not sure I want to have faith. Um, but it seems to be what's calling me. I've got a piece of paper. As you said, I repeat myself a lot. I say a lot of the same things, but I think that's probably I'm a teacher. But I got this actually, it's this Bible scripture, and I'm not religious, as I said, but I got it out of a fiction book that a friend of mine recommended I read. And it seems like every book I've read the last few years have all been about fate and have all involved death in some way or another, just a reality. And maybe every fiction book is about fate and death, probably, somewhat, one way or another. But it's a scripture from the book of Jeremiah, and I have it here. I've thought about getting a tattoo. I
Yeah.
haven't don't have enough faith yet to tattoo it on my arm. But it said, "The word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. And there's just something about that that resonates, that I have a fate. I'm supposed to be doing something, and it's significant, and it has a worldwide impact. And so this sits in front of me. I look at it a few times a day. Part of me goes, that's just Bible scripture. That's, just that. But I keep coming back to it and go, I think that's my calling. And I'm learning to relax into that, and maybe that's what faith is relaxing into what is happening. And so instead of saying, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Say, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to have faith that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm. Well, I led one of your Integration Nation calls today, and there is 12 men on there from around the world, and they open up. And I can see that they are sharing, and some of them say, I don't have anywhere else to share this. And so they come on Zoom, they come on Integration Nation, and they are just open to they're just open to sharing. And I think this is one of the things, they're sharing with men. One of the first things you say to hire yourself up. But like, you're doing it already. You're doing Integration Nation, and this is something that you said you're going to work on for the next 20 years. Is there anything else? Is there a new book coming? Not that you need anything else to push into your life.
I do have more books I want to write. That's what makes me think, okay, I've had a couple near-death experiences in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
That is also plays into a fate. That, okay, I'm still supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be gone yet. Okay. And I have at least a half a dozen books I still want to write. So Integration Nation has been my big time consumer for the last 2 years. It will probably continue to be that for a while. And it's getting to where a lot of the parts run itself. So I don't have to be running, and maintaining so many. There's still systems to be built and plans to be made. I see myself as holding the vision and, making it rain, getting out and talking to people about it, doing podcast interviews, kind of holding my tribe together. But more and more, I have so many good men that are running so many parts of it that my hope, and I'll have faith that will free up some time where I can get back to writing more of the books I want to write. So hopefully I've built the online platform for a worldwide community of men, and I can keep putting books out in the world that I think need to be written. I think they're part of my fate to write.
Okay. I see, there's over 500 men in part of Integration Nation, so I've already seen how much good work that this has brought to men. And I just, the last thing is just, I know you know how much good work this is doing for men, but just to say that I appreciate you doing it, and also that you've brought me on with you, and it's part of my impossible goal. So thank you for letting me, achieve one more step in my impossible goal.
I'm glad I could give you that space to do it, and you've come on and you've filled that space beautifully. So that's just good men, working together.
Yeah. I appreciate it, and again, I appreciate this call, and I know we're going to keep working together.
Yep. I love the connection we have, and I look forward to seeing this up on your YouTube channel, and I look forward to your YouTube channel blowing up and making a difference in the world.
For sure.
For sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
We'll see you soon.
Very soon.
I haven't got to know, but it's years since I left. Memories are shrouded in their pall. Call me